Okay, so we've seen that we can put multiple data sets on the same plot. A common thing that we might want to do is to put multiple data sets but multiple plots, right? Like that would be a good way to communicate about what is happening in our data. And so the way that matplotlib is going to let us do that is there's this idea of subplots. So here we just have one plot, so we'd say there's only one subplot here. If we want to have multiple subplots, the syntax for that, we will use plt.subplot, and we pass in 3 parameters to subplot. So I think it's always rows, columns, rows, columns, and figure number. So let's actually create some data first. So if I say t1 equals np.linspace 0, 5, 50, what's this going to do? It's going to create me 50 evenly spaced data points between 0 and 5. This will be our data right here. So in order to create subplots, what we do is instead of saying plt.plot, we're going to say plt.subplot. And so this is where these row, column, figure number arguments are going to come in. So we're going to tell matplotlib to sort of work on subplot 1. So if I pass in that they're going to be 2 rows, 1 column, and I'm going to work on the first figure number, this is kind of saying, okay, everything that follows until I call this again and change what subplot I'm working on should be plotted in subplot 1. So if I now say plt.subplot, and let's say I do t, and let's just do t squared, and maybe I'm going to make this blue circles, so that would be the B is blue, the O is make it circles. So this is saying in 2 rows, in a figure that has 2 rows, 1 column, this is what I want in subplot 1. And now, if I want to change to subplot 2, I can say, okay, I still need to ensure that I'm working on the same sort of format, so I have 2 rows, 1 column, but now I'm going to work on subplot 2. So now what I'm going to put in here could be anything, but I'm going to say, oh, sorry, this was the wrong syntax. So the subplot command is like saying switch to work on this one. Then I use just the same syntax as before, which is the plt.plot. Again, I call my which subplot am I going to work on? Oh, subplot 2. And now let's say, just for fun, let's make it the cosine of this is just an example function that we could call np.cosine of that, and let's just make it a dashed red line. And so, does anybody have any guesses about when I run this? Oh, now I'm going to call show the plot. Does anybody have any guesses about what I'm going to see? Yeah, that is a good guess because that's what I just worked on, right? But so what's happening actually is that when I first call this plt.subplot, it's saying, okay, the figure that we're creating is going to have 2 rows and 1 column. So okay, 2 rows, 1 column, and it's going to have this in the first subplot, which this order is just fixed by the matplotlib implementation, and it's going to go top to bottom. So it's saying, okay, here we're going to put our x will be t, our y will be x squared. Now, in subplot 2, we're going to put this other function, which is cosine of 2 pi times our x, and then we will show it. So let's take a look, and we'll see what happens. Oh, I called plot instead of plt. Did I do it another place? Oh, yes. Okay. So we have our first subplot is x squared. Second subplot is a cosine here. And so if I wanted to change this, so instead of having 1 column, 2 rows, if I wanted to have 2 columns, 1 row, any ideas about how I would change my code here? Yeah, so if I swap this 1 here and put a 2, and this 1 here and put a 2, now I'm saying, okay, my figure is going to have 1 row, 2 columns, and I just have to keep that consistent in order to sort of not get errors. And so now if I run this, I will see that just as we hoped, I now have 1 row, 2 columns. Maybe this isn't the best way to display this these exact plots, but that is how I control my subplots. And so you can use this to create as many subplots as you want. Here we're just doing 2, but let's say, what would happen if I did 2 here and 2 here? What am I telling matplotlib that I should have? What will my output look like? How many figures am I saying to create? Yeah, so this is saying create 2 rows, 2 columns. I've only specified what goes in 2 of them, but I should be able to run this actually, and I'll actually just have some empty plots on the bottom.